Okay, so everyone's got something which is just a waste, where you're putting resources, you're investing to something that isn't really giving you what you think it is or as much as you think. And it's something where if you're able to analyze that, take a step back, think, you probably would cut it out entirely. And this is what DOGE, the Department of Governmental Efficiency, is trying to do. If you've seen anything over there, they're just trying to cut spending in small ways and oftentimes really inefficient ways for a bigger picture, when the reality is, if anyone knows how America's expenses work, it's basically you've got the military, you've got the defense budget, you've got social services, and then you've got I think it might be healthcare, and then interest. And like those are the four things where if you're trying to save money for the country, you're gonna have to do something to those. And for the most part, they've been digging about elsewhere, trying to find money in other things. But this video is gonna be about a gym version of Doge, a muscle growth version of Doge. So the intention here is we're gonna go through some ways in which I can help you invest less time, effort, money, whatever it ends up being, with the intention of basically getting the same gains, maybe even better, because sometimes we're spending this like money in something that's actually harming and we don't entirely realize it yet. And this is obviously just with the intention that we can get to the place you want to get to in a good way, where we're not sacrificing being able to go out with friends, being able to eat something nice, being able to have a good time, or chill because you're always in the gym or something. But yeah, I'm just gonna put together my own version of my Doge. If I was coming to you and I'm like, you're a country, we're creating Doge, this is what I'd do. So I think the best place to start is kind of looking at the building blocks of what's actually going on here. And this is something where if you want to look a little bit deeper into it, you can go check out my newsletter, because I really go on about all the different ways. But we're really going to start with something really simple, right? We're probably going to talk about the stimulus for growth and the supply for that. So when we look at the stimulus, the thing I want you to concern yourself with the most is, let's say, the bare minimum. The bare minimum I'd kind of want someone to be doing in order to build. And that bare minimum, we're going to put it at 2 failure sets a week for a muscle. Now, of course, I don't want everyone to be training at the bare minimum. I think unless there's something you really, really dislike but want to maintain that size, unless that's a thing, you should probably be doing more than that. But let's say that's the bare minimum, okay? We've already worked out maybe there's some stuff we can reduce. Maybe we don't care about some muscles as much as other people. Maybe calves isn't as big of a priority. We want to regain or retain, maybe even slowly and smallly grow some of that tissue. We know what to do there. We can just throw that on one set twice a week and we'll be good. If we literally didn't want it to increase in size at all, one set is probably going to be enough to have no real growth but no real atrophy, and then boom, real simple stuff. So that's kind of like the first thing. We're looking at volume, and that's the minimum. But then the maximum, I would say, is unless you're doing something where you're really trying to milk out something extra from a muscle, and you're literally reducing the volume everywhere but that one muscle so that you can get a little bit extra, I would not go above 6 sets a week. I know that sounds a little bit low compared to what a lot of people say, but this is a topic I've also wrote about a lot in my newsletter, where it's just something where we're going above 6 sets, and unless there's a really low effort and we're kind of making up for the lack of effort, we're not getting too much from those later sets. There might be those, again, tiny little bit of extra benefit, but unless we're programming in a way where we're setting up to allow the actual additional sets to be worthwhile, where we're not having them generate such a level of fatigue across our entire program where it's just diminishing everything. If we're not doing that, then we probably shouldn't go above 6. And ideally there, splitting out quite balanced. I'd rather 3 sets one day, couple of days rest, 3 sets, instead of 5 sets, a couple of days rest, and 1 set. Splitting in the middle is gonna it's going to be one of the best things we can really do when we're dividing up frequency. That's really the big stuff there, volume. But in your program, because we'll keep going down the program slide, why not? In your program, other things we can do to just improve is, let's say the warm-up. The warm-up where you're actually doing cardio, trying to raise your body temperature. We could probably get away with maybe, if we're doing 20 minutes, reducing it down to 10. We could get away with that if it's summer. We can play around these things. If I'm walking to the gym, I can shave off a few minutes. If it's summer, I can shave off a few minutes. This is really, really, that's a really small thing, so we're not going to keep finding ways to reduce warm-ups. But, that's my point. Sometimes Doge is looking at those small things, but I will try my hardest to focus on the bigger picture stuff. Real easy, bigger picture stuff is probably going to be our reps, right? How do we shorten both our time? How do we reduce our fatigue? How do we get more? Let's just cut the reps a bit. Let's, not go above 10. I think that's a good way to do it. We could limit ourselves even lower. We could limit it at 8, at 7, at 6. Doesn't really matter. We can reduce what we're investing there, what we're losing, by dropping the reps a bit. Because in truth, there's no need to go above it. Okay. Other than that, I can't really think of anything outside of volume, reps, and warm-up where we could be spending too much. So it kind of all falls into place. That's why, I don't know, like I said, I've read about this a lot, and some of these things do go together, where having effective volume comes in, a wide range of different things, which is something to explore separately. But I don't want to drone on about all the intricacies and the nuance. I just want to focus on the real big picture stuff, and that's kind of workout programming done. Outside of workout programming though, this is the things that are probably going to make the most difference, right? So, for instance, if we focus on nutrition can be really, really expensive. Most expensive macro, if anyone's done a little bit of shopping, is protein. That's real obvious. And so when we look at protein, we kind of have to ask ourselves, how much do we truly, truly need? And look, I don't want to tell anyone to take things slower, but if I wanted to take things slower, well, I probably wouldn't, but if I was tight on money and I was okay with a little bit of slow progress because I'd need to have that extra money, although I will say I can get by with a meal plan that covers everything, where I'm buying it all myself for $150 a month, and it does everything. So it shouldn't really be that, I think if I needed more money to get a little bit more protein, I should probably just do more hours. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I don't think anyone's in a position where, or maybe they are, but I think it's going to be really rare. But the point is, on those days where maybe you're eating out, maybe you're with friends, things just aren't going your way, try and make your minimum 100 grams. 100 grams of protein. Don't go for your usual amount, because stuff does happen in life, and we don't need to be so strict on that, so long as we're doing our best most days. But then, the normal stuff, I literally wouldn't, I don't think it's worth, unless it's an accident, having more than a gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. I think the second we start getting above that, we're just spending more money, and we're not really getting anything from it. It can be a great safety net, and if you're swimming in the cash, feel free, but you're not really getting anything out of that. It's not done in a negative way where we're losing by doing that, we're losing gains or we're losing progress because we're getting fat or anything, because protein is really difficult to be utilized as energy. So even if we're going over a ton with the protein, it's just going to be used until it's gone, and then maybe some will be converted, who knows. It's not going to make or break things, and depending on the type of protein you're getting, it could even be something helpful, similar to having more carbs. But that's what I'm saying there. Just don't go too wild on that, especially if money's a problem. Similar to that, don't worry about having 5 meals a day. Okay, if we're being efficient here, let's say 3, and we can do it really simple, where a couple of them are meal prepped in bulk. Maybe if we're trying to save time, maybe we're switching the toppings around. to make it a little bit less boring, that's just besides the point. That's kind of the nutrition side. That's easy. Department of Governmental Efficiency, Muscle Edition, DOGE-M, right? What's next? Sleep. The problem with sleep I see a lot is people think they need like 10 hours or 9 hours. Look, truthfully, I don't think it's that big of a deal if you get 7 or 8 hours on average. I think 8's probably going to cover most people, but going down to 7 is really not that much of a difference, especially for muscle. Like, it's really just when it comes to extra sleep, when we're going above 7 hours, it mostly becomes what I think is a question of not how is this slowing down or speeding up muscle growth, but how am I feeling mentally when I do my sets? Because if you're a little bit locked in, if you're feeling less worn out, it's gonna be done in a different way where maybe you're pushing harder or you're able to get more out of yourself, be more motivated. So it's not really a question of sleep and then boom, results. It's more about what that sleep enables you to do. Of course, if you get 3-4 hours, there's going to be some problems internally, but we understand the difference between the two and why that isn't done the same as, me just getting a really, really incredible night's sleep and feeling super energized. And the last thing I really can say when it comes to Doge for muscle is just gonna be cardio. I don't know if someone's spamming cardio out there, and I think cardio, yeah, it can be fun. It can be boring. It's about you and your lifestyle. If I'm not doing a ton of cardio in my life, like I'm not moving around a ton, I probably would put more of an emphasis on meeting a certain amount, especially if you're trying to make those wider margins for what you're eating. But this is what I mean, like depending on who you are and what the investment is itself, it's confusing on what we shave, because if I really, really have a big appetite, I want to eat a lot, but I can't because I'm cutting, or I just know I'm going to go over consistently, then yeah, adding some more expenditure through cardio could be a good idea. But if I'm someone where the cardio, we're only doing it for like the cardiovascular benefits instead of it just being more energy spent, then that's like, what we do there, right? That's what I'm answering here. And literally, I'd say just 150 minutes is gonna be good enough. Don't worry about the whole step stuff where it's like you have to meet these steps, because that's not how the body works. But just find a cardio amount that's comfortable. Don't feel like you have to push yourself, kill yourself to get that extra cardio in. It's just not worth it so long as you're meeting that baseline. This is about efficiency. This isn't about spending your entire life doing this. And beyond 150 minutes a week anyway, we're not getting too much extra. That's what I think people need to know. Efficiency is about going to that best place, but there's also trade-offs when it comes to life. And if you think about it too, even if we're being a bit wishy-washy, if we're wasting our time, if we're not happy in life, we're going to be giving less to our sets, we're going to be giving less to our sessions, we're going to be a bit more demotivated on the journey, and that will just in on itself lead to worse progress, even though there's not something direct. And that's why I think it's important to just find like an efficient place to get rid of the stuff that's kind of just costing too much for no reason, to honestly just focus on nailing the training, and then making sure the sleep and nutrition is good. Doesn't even have to be perfect, it just has to be good. And then everything else falls into place. Supplements aren't too necessary, even creatine, which I think is great, although it's cheap enough, right? Like, that's a thing I'd probably just get rid of, supplements in general. I don't have anything against them. I just think if you're tight on your money, unless they're doing something which you genuinely need, for the most part, it's normally useless. There's a lot of use cases, a lot of reasons why you'd use them. I myself take about 5 different ones, but that's not why I take them. I actually have specific reasons. I've almost looked at a checklist and gone, can I get it from food? Nah. Can I get it from food consistently? Yeah. Is it actually going to help me? Yeah. How do I feel when I take it? How are my gains when I take it? And that's what you got to ask. You don't just start taking things because people tell you to. You don't start stacking up lists and lists of activities and habits and supplements and weird obscure foods and methods that you're doing exercises you're adding, steps you're adding. It's a very negative and continuous spiral into just wasting and consumption. Like, not good consumption, but just consumption. You're not getting anything, you're just giving away everything to get stuff that doesn't matter. And truthfully, I think we should protect what we possess a lot more than we do, and especially here. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the Doge version of muscle. I think this will be helpful for people. And if this has been helpful for you all, go check out my newsletter, maybe subscribe. Thank you for coming, and I've enjoyed yapping about random stuff for a bit.